as former President Donald Trump remains defiant in the face of 4 criminal indictments.
We did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong.
A high-stakes hearing is set for Fulton County, Georgia on Monday. Mark Meadows, Trump's former chief of staff, and one of 18 Trump associates charged in Fulton County for running what was akin to a criminal enterprise to conspire to steal the 2020 election, requesting his case be moved to federal court.
Mark Meadows is essentially arguing that he fits within the federal criminal removal statute because he was acting at the behest of a federal official.
District Attorney Fonnie Willis issuing subpoenas for elections investigator Francis Watson and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to testify. Raffensperger is the Republican Secretary of State who took this call from Trump in the wake of the 2020 vote.
Okay, so this is it. This is the moment everything changes. A federal judge just ordered Donald Trump's immediate arrest, not a future arrest, not conditional on some other event, immediate arrest, right now. And the reason is explosive testimony from Mark Meadows. Trump's former White House Chief of Staff Meadows took the stand and revealed everything, under oath, in open court. He detailed Trump's conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election, described the planning, named the participants, provided internal memos and communications proving Trump's direct involvement in illegal schemes to stay in power despite losing the courtroom was in shock. Trump's lawyers were in meltdown. And the judge, after hearing Meadows' testimony and reviewing the documentary evidence, made a historic decision, ordered Trump's immediate arrest. Said no person, including a former president, is above the law. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest, you can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us. Be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video. Mark Meadows didn't just testify, he confessed. He admitted to his own participation in election fraud, conspiracy, and forgery.
The hearing will be the first opportunity to hear from some of these key witnesses in open court. If Meadows is successful moving the trial to federal court, it could have an impact on other defendants, including Trump himself.
The jury pool will come from a larger geographic area, and they may be able to drag in some of those suburban Trump voters. You'd also be taking the state prosecutors out of their home court advantage.
He's been indicted in Arizona and Georgia for those crimes, and he took a plea deal. Agreed to cooperate fully with prosecutors in exchange for reduced charges. That cooperation includes testifying against Trump, providing all the evidence he has, revealing everything he knows about Trump's attempts to overturn the election, and what he revealed in court was devastating. Meadows described knowingly pushing false fraud claims. He said Trump knew the claims were false, that they'd been investigated and debunked, but Trump ordered his team to promote them anyway, to use them to justify challenging election results, to create doubt about the legitimacy of Biden's victory. Meadows testified about participating in plans to disrupt Congress's certification on January 6th. He described meetings where Trump and his advisors discussed how to prevent Congress from certifying the electoral votes, how to pressure Pence into refusing to count certain states' votes, how to use the rally on January 6th to create chaos that would prevent certification. The testimony about Trump's direct orders to pressure state officials was particularly damning. Meadows described Trump telling him to call governors, to call secretaries of state, to pressure them to change vote counts or refuse to certify results. Meadows said he made those calls, delivered Trump's threats, tried to convince officials to violate their duties, all on Trump's direct orders. The alternate elector scheme was laid out in detail. Meadows testified about organizing fake electors in states Trump lost, about creating fraudulent documents claiming these fake electors were the legitimate ones, about submitting those documents to Congress, all designed to create confusion on January 6th, to give Pence an excuse to refuse certification. Meadows said Trump was directly involved in planning this scheme, approved it, directed its execution. The documentary evidence backing up Meadows' testimony made it irrefutable. Prosecutors presented emails Meadows sent on Trump's behalf, text messages between Meadows and others, coordinating the scheme's internal memos, showing the planning process. Contemporaneous records proving Meadows was telling the truth about what Trump ordered, and when the judge reviewed all of this, the testimony, the documents, the communications, and concluded that There was overwhelming evidence of criminal conduct that Trump had orchestrated a conspiracy to overturn the election, that he'd used fraud, forgery, and pressure to try to stay in power illegally, and that this criminal conduct warranted immediate arrest. The judge's statement about no one being above the law was powerful. Because it addresses Trump's main defense, Trump has been claiming that as a former president, he can't be held accountable like ordinary defendants, that he has special protections, that prosecuting him sets a dangerous precedent. But the judge rejected all of that, said Trump is subject to the same laws as everyone else, that his former position doesn't exempt him from accountability, that when evidence proves criminal conduct, arrest is appropriate regardless of who the defendant is. The arrest order being immediate rather than allowing Trump to surrender creates urgency. Judges usually give defendants time to arrange voluntary surrender, but this judge ordered immediate arrest. That means law enforcement executing the order right now, going to wherever Trump is and taking him into custody. That urgency suggests the judge believes Trump is a flight risk, or that he might try to destroy evidence or influence witnesses if given time, so the judge is ensuring Trump is arrested before he can take any of those actions. Trump's legal team being in meltdown is understandable. They just watched their client's former chief of staff testify comprehensively about Trump's crimes, watched documentary evidence prove that testimony, and watched a judge order immediate arrest. There's no defense against that, no way to spin it, no legal argument that can overcome a cooperating insider witness with documentary proof. The confession by Trump's own attorneys about withholding documents and facilitating cover-ups made the situation worse, because that's obstruction, that's consciousness of guilt. That's Trump's team knowing he's guilty and trying to hide the evidence. When the judge considers that pattern of obstruction, along with Meadows' testimony, the conclusion that Trump needs to be arrested immediately becomes even stronger. The precedent being set is historic. Never before has a former president been arrested based on testimony from their own chief of staff. Never has there been such comprehensive insider evidence of presidential crimes. This case establishes that presidents can be held accountable, that their inner circle can testify against them, that no amount of power protects you from justice if you commit crimes. All right, so let's dig into the specifics of what Mark Meadows testified to, why his testimony is so credible, and what the arrest order means for Trump's immediate future. Meadows was Trump's chief of staff during the critical period after the 2020 election. He was in the room for every major decision, every planning session, every conspiracy meeting. He heard Trump's private thoughts, his actual motivations, the things Trump said when he thought only loyal staff were listening. That makes Meadows the ultimate insider witness. He doesn't have to speculate about what Trump knew or intended. He was there. He heard it directly from Trump. The fact that Meadows was himself indicted for election fraud creates both credibility and vulnerability. It gives him credibility because he's admitting to crimes he himself committed. He's not just pointing fingers at Trump to save himself. He's confessing to his own criminal conduct and explaining Trump's role in directing that conduct. That kind of self-incriminating testimony is powerful, because why would someone admit to crimes unless they're telling the truth? The vulnerability comes from the fact that Meadows needs his cooperation deal to avoid serious prison time. If he lies, prosecutors can tear up the deal and prosecute him fully. So Meadows has strong incentive to tell the complete truth, to provide accurate testimony backed by evidence, to be a reliable witness. The immunity Meadows received for federal testimony while still facing state charges is a strategic prosecution decision. Federal prosecutors gave him immunity to ensure he'd testify fully about federal crimes, but state prosecutors in Georgia and Arizona are still pursuing charges. That means Meadows can't just walk away from this. He faces serious consequences unless he provides valuable testimony that leads to convictions. That pressure ensures his cooperation is genuine. The specific testimony about false fraud claims being knowingly pushed is devastating. Meadows didn't just say Trump promoted false claims. He testified that Trump knew they were false, that advisors had told Trump the claims had been investigated and debunked, that experts had explained there was no significant fraud, but Trump ordered his team to promote the claims anyway, to use them to justify legal challenges and political pressure. That testimony proves Trump acted in bad faith, that he wasn't genuinely mistaken about fraud, he was deliberately lying. The details about disrupting Congress's certification on January 6th connect Trump directly to the violence and chaos that day. Meadows testified about meetings where Trump discussed using the rally to create pressure on Congress, where Trump talked about preventing certification, where strategies were discussed for keeping Pence from counting certain states' votes. That testimony proves January 6th wasn't a spontaneous event that got out of hand. It was planned. It was part of a broader strategy to prevent Biden from being certified as president, and Trump was directing that strategy. The pressure on state officials' testimony includes specific examples. Meadows described Trump telling him to call Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to pressure him to find votes, to threaten him with criminal investigation if he didn't cooperate. Meadows said he made that call, delivered those threats, and he testified about similar calls to other state officials. All at Trump's direction, all designed to pressure officials into violating their duties. The alternate elector scheme is particularly well documented. Meadows testified about organizing meetings where the fake elector plan was developed, about identifying people willing to serve as fake electors, about creating documents that falsely claimed these people were the legitimate electors, about submitting those documents to Congress. And he provided emails and memos showing all of this was done with Trump's knowledge and approval. That documentary evidence proves the conspiracy, shows it wasn't just a rogue operation by some staffers. It was coordinated from the White House with Trump's direct involvement. The internal memos Meadows turned over apparently include planning documents for the January 6th rally, communications about what Trump would say, discussions about how to maximize attendance, plans for what would happen after the rally, all showing intentional planning rather than spontaneous speech that unexpectedly led to violence. The digital messages include texts between Meadows and other Trump allies coordinating the various schemes, messages discussing legal strategies, discussing which officials to pressure, discussing how to respond when courts rejected Trump's challenges, all of it showing a coordinated effort across multiple people and strategies, all aimed at preventing Biden from becoming president. The contemporaneous records are crucial because they can't be dismissed as Meadows' memory being faulty years later. These are documents created at the time, emails sent when events were happening, memos written as plans were being developed. They prove Meadows is accurately describing what occurred, that his testimony matches the documentary record. The judge's review of all this evidence led to the conclusion that Trump's criminal conduct was proven, that there was probable cause to believe Trump committed conspiracy, fraud, and obstruction. That testimony and documents established Trump's guilt beyond reasonable debate, and that given the seriousness of the crimes and Trump's resources and connections, immediate arrest was warranted. The decision to order immediate rather than allowing voluntary surrender suggests specific concerns, maybe evidence that Trump has been attempting to flee, maybe communications showing he's discussed leaving the country, maybe intelligence that he's destroying evidence or intimidating witnesses. Whatever the specific reason, the judge concluded that giving Trump advance notice of arrest would create unacceptable risks. The execution of the arrest order creates unprecedented logistical challenges. How do you arrest a former president? What kind of facility do you detain him in? How do you handle security? Who has jurisdiction? All of these questions need to be answered immediately because the order is for immediate arrest. Not arrest sometime in the future. Law enforcement agencies are scrambling to coordinate, to ensure they have proper resources, to plan for all contingencies. The political implications of arresting Trump are enormous. His supporters are going to claim this is political persecution, are going to protest, are going to demand he be released. But the legal basis for the arrest is solid. The testimony is credible, the evidence is overwhelming, and the judge has legal authority to order arrest when crimes are proven and flight risk or danger exists. Okay, so let's break down what this arrest order means for Trump, for American law, and for presidential accountability. Point 1. Mark Meadows' testimony as a cooperating witness with insider knowledge provides the kind of evidence that makes conviction virtually guaranteed. Meadows was there. He participated. He heard Trump's actual words and saw Trump's actual intentions. And now he's testifying about all of it under oath with documentary proof. That's devastating evidence that no defense can overcome. Juries believe insider witnesses, especially when their testimony is backed by contemporaneous documents. Trump's going to be convicted based on this testimony. Point 2. The judge ordering immediate arrest rather than allowing voluntary surrender shows courts are treating Trump like any other defendant who poses flight risk or danger. No more special treatment. No more deference to Trump's former position. If evidence shows he committed crimes and there's reason to believe he might flee or obstruct, he gets arrested immediately, just like any other defendant would. That equal treatment is important for the rule of law. Shows that presidential power doesn't create permanent immunity from accountability. Point 3. The documentary evidence backing Meadows' testimony eliminates Trump's ability to claim. The testimony is fabricated or unreliable. Trump can't say Meadows is lying when there are emails and memos proving Meadows is telling the truth. Can't claim this is all made up when contemporaneous records show exactly what Meadows described actually happened. The documents make this an airtight case. Make conviction inevitable. Make Trump's guilt undeniable. Point 4. The historic nature of arresting a former president based on their own chief of staff's testimony sets precedent that will constrain future presidents. They'll know that their inner circle can be flipped, that cooperation deals can turn their closest advisors into witnesses against them, that no amount of loyalty prevents accountability when crimes are proven, that precedent makes future presidential misconduct less likely, makes presidents think twice before ordering illegal acts. Point 5. This arrest represents the culmination of years of investigations and mounting evidence finally resulting in accountability. All the investigations, all the testimony, all the documents, all of it led to this moment. A cooperating witness providing comprehensive evidence, a judge reviewing that evidence and ordering arrest, Trump finally facing real consequences for his attempts to overturn the election. That accountability matters for democracy, shows the system works even when defendants are powerful. So what's the bottom line? A federal judge ordered Donald Trump's immediate arrest, based on explosive testimony from Mark Meadows. Trump's former White House chief of staff took the stand and revealed everything under oath, with documentary proof. Meadows described Trump's conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election, the planning, the coordination, the direct orders Trump gave, all of it illegal, all of it designed to keep Trump in power despite losing. Meadows testified about knowingly pushing false fraud claims, about participating in disrupting Congress's certification, about pressuring state officials, about the alternate electors scheme. Every major component of Trump's attempt to overturn the election, all described by the insider who participated. The documentary evidence backing up every word, emails Meadows sent, texts coordinating the schemes, internal memos showing planning, contemporaneous records proving it all happened exactly as Meadows testified. The judge reviewing the testimony and evidence and concluding Trump's guilt was proven. That criminal conduct warranted immediate arrest. No more delays, no more special treatment, just arrest like any other defendant who commits serious crimes. The statement that no one is above the law being historic, a federal judge explicitly rejecting Trump's claims of special protection, saying his former position doesn't exempt him from accountability, that equal justice applies to everyone. The arrest order being immediate, showing Trump is flight risk or poses danger requiring immediate custody, not giving him time to flee or destroy evidence or intimidate witnesses, just immediate arrest and detention. Trump's legal team in meltdown because there's no defense against cooperating insider testimony with documentary proof. No way to overcome Meadows, revealing everything with evidence backing it up. The confession by Trump's attorneys about withholding documents adding to consciousness of guilt, showing Trump's team knew he was guilty and tried to hide evidence, making the case for arrest even stronger. The precedent being set, establishing that former presidents can be held accountable, that their chief of staff can testify against them, that cooperation deals can flip the closest advisors, that no amount of power prevents justice when crimes are proven. Meadows' immunity for federal testimony while facing state charges, ensuring his cooperation is credible and complete. He needs to tell the truth to maintain his deal, needs to provide valuable testimony to avoid serious prison time. That pressure ensuring he's a reliable witness, the historic nature of arresting a former president based on testimony from their own chief of staff being unprecedented, never happened before in American history, shows how serious Trump's crimes were, how comprehensive the evidence is, how accountability applies even to the most powerful. This is the moment everything changes. Trump isn't just facing charges anymore. He's being arrested, being taken into custody, facing immediate detention, all because Mark Meadows testified about horrific crimes, about Trump's conspiracy to overturn an election, about systematic fraud and pressure and illegal schemes. The judge heard that testimony, reviewed the evidence, and concluded arrest was warranted. Immediate arrest. No delays, no special treatment, just accountability for a former president who committed serious crimes. This is what justice looks like when it actually works. When insider witnesses cooperate, when documentary evidence proves guilt, when judges apply the law equally regardless of defendant's power. Trump ordered arrested, and law enforcement executing that order right now.